Hey, 42 here. Amidst the fright of the frigid Atlantic Ocean on an April night in 1912, the unsinkable RMS Titanic sulked quietly towards its demise. The passengers and crew were blissfully unaware of their fate. The opulent behemoth, lauded as a testament to human ingenuity, was on a collision course with its nemesis, a gargantuan iceberg that would shatter its hull and cast it into the annals of history. But what if I told you that during World War II, the British tried to build a ship that would be unsinkable, not because of its ability to withstand icebergs, but because it was made from an iceberg? How do you build a ship from an iceberg? Well, you're about to find out, and trust me, this story is even crazier than you're expecting. Speaking of crazy, it was once said that only a crazy man can create crazy ideas. And that once was just now, by me. And the inventor of the Iceberg Ship was just the right mix of crazy and genius. Geoffrey Pike was born in London in 1893, and he faced adversity early on, losing both his parents by the age of 10. Taken in by a wealthy uncle who ensured his innate genius was not stifled, Pike went on to study at Cambridge University, only to leave when the First World War broke out. Working as a journalist, Pike illegally infiltrated Germany by borrowing a passport from an American sailor to gather intelligence, but he was captured and imprisoned in the Ruhleben POW camp. However, he managed a daring escape after months of prep. Just like in a cheesy spy film, Pike used the reflection of the sun to blind the patrolling guard as he sneaked past. Then, he scaled the perimeter fence and bolted. After which he squirreled his way back to England, where he resumed his inventive endeavours. Keeps is an online subscription service that makes it easy and affordable for men to treat their male pattern baldness. Get expert care for hair loss from the comfort of your home, without ever visiting a doctor's office or pharmacy. All treatment plans are personalised to address your unique needs. And the treatment plans are affordable, typically half the cost of traditional pharmacy prices. Keeps offers both of the FDA-approved hair loss treatment options, as well as a 2-in-1 gel that combines both treatments. According to clinical studies, treatments offered by Keeps are 90% effective at treating hair loss and can increase hair growth by up to 35%. Whether you're looking to prevent hair loss, stimulate hair growth, or just take better care of the hair you have, Keeps has you covered. In addition to clinically proven treatments, Keeps offers hair thickening, shampoo, conditioner, and a styling pomade, which I love. Most Keeps customers notice results within 6 months of starting their treatment. To date, Keeps has helped nearly 1 million men to keep their hair. Keeps has over 4,500 5-star reviews. They deliver treatments to your door in discreet packaging, and with shipments every 3, 6, or 12 months, they work to your schedule. Hair loss stops with Keeps. For a special offer to get you started, go to keeps.com/42 or click the link in the description. That's keeps.com/42. And a big thanks to Keeps for sponsoring this video. Between the World Wars, Pike put his ponderous mind to various money-making schemes. Most involved speculating on the commodities market, which he was tremendously successful in. At one point, he controlled 1/4 of Britain's tin reserves. He also heavily campaigned against the rise of anti-Semitism in Nazi Germany. But his curious nature wouldn't be fully satisfied until World War II broke out. After the invasion of Norway in 1940, Pike thought it pertinent to ponder the problem of ice. Specifically, 70% of Europe lay under snow for 5 months of the year. Yet, the Allies had no suitable military vehicle for this. Tanks were sluggish in the snow and slippery on ice. And so, Project Plow was born. Yeah, it sounds like something you tried to erase from your search history. But in fact, it went something like this. Pike proposed a fleet of screw-propelled vehicles be built. Small, highly mobile personnel carriers with a pair of lightweight screw-like cylinders instead of tracks or wheels. The cylinders would turn in opposite directions, propelling the vehicle forward much more effectively on snow and ice than existing vehicles. Project Plow would utilize these novel vehicles to send out small, special force-esque units deep into enemy territories during the winter to sabotage infrastructure. Blow up a bridge or two, tinker with train tracks, that sort of thing. When Project Plow was first presented to Winston Churchill, he noted, Never in the history of human conflict will so few immobilize so many. Unfortunately, Pike's plows would never plow, since the project was superseded by the development of the Weasel personnel carrier by the Canadians. In 1942, however, Pike turned his attention to solving a different cold weather problem: preventing the icing of ships in the Arctic. This is when ice builds up on the hull, which can cause it to capsize. Pike's solution was rather obvious. Why not just build the entire ship out of ice in the first place? Pike pitched a concept to the British government, grabbing the attention of Winston Churchill and Lord Louis Mountbatten, the head of the Special Projects Group. Rather than scoff at his madness, they both thought, if properly implemented, it could be game-changing. Game-changing, you say? But why did the game need to be changed at all? What was so wrong with the British Navy's tried and tested steel ships? Well, in the early 40s, the Allies were in a tight spot. The Atlantic Ocean had become a fierce battleground, with German U-boats wreaking havoc on supply lines, sinking merchant ships and disrupting the flow of essential resources. The Allies needed a way to safeguard their convoys from the unyielding U-boat assaults. The obvious defensive weapon, aircraft carriers, were pricey and scarcely available. Building these required a substantial amount of steel, a resource already stretched thin due to the colossal war effort. Steel production also demanded considerable energy, labour and time, all of which were in short supply during the war. The Admiralty were craving a more efficient and economical solution, and that's exactly when Geoffrey Pike's eccentric idea started to gain ground. Hence, Pike's so-called Project Habakkuk was born, an audacious plan to create a floating iceberg fortress that would serve as an unsinkable aircraft carrier. It was named after prophet Habakkuk from the Old Testament, who wrote, "Look over the nations and see, and be utterly amazed, for a work is being done in your days that you would not have believed were it told." Yeah, I would say a ship made of ice would fit that description quite nicely. Pike imagines this mammoth structure as a safe refuge for merchant ships and a launch pad for aircraft, helping to tip the scales of the Battle of the Atlantic in the Allies' favour. The stakes were incredibly high. As the research and development of an ice ship advanced, the war effort continued to confront immense challenges. Time was crucial, and every day that passed without a solution meant more lives were lost and resources wasted. This was a serious project with lots of money and minds put towards it. Nobel laureate Max Perut was drafted in to help. The pressure on Pike and his team was massive, as this daring idea had the potential to alter the entire course of the war. Pike didn't just want to build an ice dinghy, this thing would have been an absolute behemoth. The plans that were drawn up envisioned an ice vessel 1,200 meters long and 180 meters wide. To give you some perspective, the largest ship ever built was the Seawise Giant at 458 meters long and 70 wide. That's less than half of Pike's Ice Giant. On the face of it, Pike's proposition seemed preposterous, but it certainly had its benefits. Ice takes only 1% of the energy of steel to manufacture. And maybe they didn't even need to do that. After all, there were plenty of icebergs merrily floating around. Why not just use one of them? And at first, that's precisely what they planned to do. Pike envisioned finding a massive iceberg, flattening the top to create a landing strip, and hollowing out the interior to create a space for housing aircraft and crew members. Trouble is, there were two iceberg-sized issues with this plan. Firstly, ask Olaf what frozen things do in summer. Yeah, you know the answer. Secondly, most icebergs have an unstable mass distribution, which makes them prone to tipping over. You can just imagine the Nazi commanders putting their fingers together and doing a good old evil villain style laugh when the brand new British flagship suddenly does a 180 in the heat of battle. To tackle these obstacles, Pike and his squad had to concoct an innovative solution that would preserve ice's desirable qualities whilst eliminating its innate weaknesses. Enter PiCrete, the extraordinary material that resulted from their creative efforts. Although I do wonder where Mr. Pike got the name PiCrete from. I guess we'll never know. This new material was a composite consisting of 86% water and 14% sawdust or wood pulp. This unassuming mixture of ingredients may not sound particularly revolutionary, but its properties left researchers and military personnel alike in awe. Upon its discovery, Lord Mountbatten was desperate to show it off to Churchill, so he barged into the wartime leader's bathroom and lobbed a block of PiCrete into his steaming hot bathtub, whilst Churchill was still in it, showcasing PiCrete's slow melting rate and buoyancy. One of PiCrete's most captivating characteristics is its exceptional strength. Compared to regular ice, PiCrete is far more robust and shatter-resistant. It can even endure bullets and, to some extent, the explosive force of grenades. This resilience stems from the sawdust fibers that create a web-like structure, reinforcing the ice and rendering it significantly tougher and less fragile. However, PiCrete's true magic lies in its resistance to melting. Regular ice, when exposed to heat, melts relatively quickly. PiCrete, on the other hand, can withstand much higher temperatures before dissolving into a puddle, thanks to its unique composition. The sawdust serves as an insulator, decelerating the melting process, which was important if constructing a ship intended for lengthy deployments. To showcase PiCrete's impressive properties, Geoffrey Pike and his team carried out a series of unconventional tests. In one such experiment, Pike presented Lord Louis Mountbatten and Winston Churchill with a block of PiCrete and a piece of regular ice. When Mountbatten shot at the ice with a revolver, it splintered into fragments. In contrast, when he shot the PiCrete, the bullet ricocheted off, leaving it relatively unharmed. So then, toiling non-stop in a hidden lab nestled within the Canadian Rockies, the team experimented with various ice and sawdust concoctions to create the perfect PiCrete blend. They also faced the daunting task of devising the novel engineering solutions needed to build and maintain such a massive vessel, all whilst keeping their work cloaked in secrecy. Amidst the echoing chambers of their clandestine workshop, the air was thick with anticipation and the scent of sawdust. Pike's vision was slowly materializing into a tangible, albeit unconventional, marvel of wartime innovation. So, the team constructed a prototype. This smaller scale model, known as Habakkuk 2, served as a proof of concept for the feasibility of a full-sized PiCrete ship. Engineers and scientists worked hand in hand, pouring thousands of tons of PiCrete into molds to create the ship's hull and structure. This process was labor-intensive and fraught with challenges, from ensuring the uniformity of the PiCrete mixture to developing innovative cooling systems that would prevent the ship from melting. The ship was designed to be virtually unsinkable, with a hull so thick that it could withstand direct hits from torpedoes without sustaining critical damage. Set afloat upon a secluded lake in Alberta, Canada, Habakkuk 2 seemed to be a success. It showcased the material's durability and viability as a floating airbase, and it stayed frozen even in slightly warmer weather conditions. All this sounds amazing! So what happened? If it's so wonderful, why haven't most people heard of PiCrete? And the prototype aside, did we ever build any ships from it? Well, sadly not. The small prototype highlighted a fatal flaw. Building a full-size PiCrete ship, it was envisioned to be a staggering 1,200 meters long when complete, would have required the invention of new machinery and construction processes, which would have been hugely time-consuming and costly. The addition of sawdust slowed the melting rate of ice considerably, but some sort of whole ship refrigeration system would still have to be invented and implemented to stop the shiny new flagship of the Royal Navy from turning into slush in warmer climates. When the maths was done, it was discovered that building just one PiCrete ship would have cost more money than a whole fleet of conventional aircraft carriers. Also, at this later stage in the war, the global demand for steel was immense, and using that on an experimental ice ship that might not even have been usable when complete was simply deemed too risky. That steel was needed elsewhere in the construction of more tried and tested vessels. In the end, Project Habakkuk was shelved. The prototype in Alberta was left floating on the lake. The PiCrete slowly melted, and eventually the remaining steel frame sunk to the bottom, where it still lies to this day, as a poignant reminder of what was probably the most innovative ship design ever conceived. Rumour has it, it took 3 whole summers for the scale model to fully melt. You know, at the start of this video, I called Geoffrey Pike crazy. But if he proved one thing, it's that the world would be significantly less interesting if it didn't have a few crazies in it. Thanks for watching. Just a quick word to say that I couldn't make these videos without the support of my Patreon members. Consider joining the exclusive 42 Discord community by supporting me on Patreon. It's a great place to discuss my videos with like-minded individuals and myself. The link's in the description, but if you don't want to, or you can't join my Patreon, then please don't worry. A simple like or comment to say thanks would also put a huge smile on my face. Thank you.